So my thesis, one of a few, is that buildings matter. They are the big deal. They've been a big deal for a long time, and they're not getting the credit that they deserve. They're not sexy, I know that. I'm sure, plug-in vehicles, very, very sexy. Buildings, not sexy. But they're ubiquitous, right? They're everywhere. I haven't been in very many plug-in electric vehicles, but I've been in a building, even today, right? I mean, this is why it's a big deal. So instead of talking about energy consumption, things like that, let's talk about the size of the construction opportunity. This is one of the early things I was told years and years and years ago. So imagine the movie industry, Hollywood, okay? It's a big industry. It's giant. It drives this country. And imagine construction sitting right next to it. And they start burning some amount of cash on day one, January 1st. It's a Monday, okay? And these two industries burn cash at the same rate every day. On Friday, at 5 p.m., in time for happy hour, the movie industry is out of money, okay? But the construction industry, even at half the size it was in 2007, can continue to burn money at that rate, create jobs, change this country until December 31st. That's how big the construction industry is. But to all of us, that's how big the opportunity or the problem is, okay? And some of the earlier conversations, we can track bicycles. I track bicycles all the time. Map my ride, you can see me right there, talk_radio. We map trash, we map cars, but we can't map buildings. Not one person in this room knows what this building consumes, or whether it's efficient or not. So buildings consume vast amounts of energy. I think we know that. The number that Peter and others have thrown out is 40%. 40% of the nation's CO2 is tied to building. That's a big number. Okay, 72% is the nation's electricity tied to coal. That's a big number. I had the pleasure of presenting at a major pharmaceutical company last week, and from their 2008 sustainability report, 75% of their scope 2 carbon dioxide comes from buildings. Okay? The small number is 12%. That's all of their commuter CO2 to South San Francisco. And the 11%, that's the air miles associated with thousands of employees. Buildings are the big elephant in the room. Buildings are the room, right? That's the point. Buildings touch us all every day. I can joke with hyperbole and say who's ever been in a building, but the number that was thrown out earlier is absolutely correct. 90% of our time is spent in buildings. But what's more important is 90+% of our productive life is spent in buildings, and that's a very, very important number. Again, pointing back to that major pharmaceutical company in South San Francisco, my brother happens to be a researcher there. And I can guarantee you he has never done laboratory science from a park. He's never logged in from a Starbucks. He always is in a building doing his work. Okay, so I've got the energy cost and I have the opportunity associated with the hours of the day that we actually enjoy. So my thesis, the second thesis, the first thesis is buildings are the big thing. The second thesis is that buildings are in fact machines. And one of my favorite machines is a bicycle. It's incredibly efficient. 20 pounds can increase my ability to commute, to move, all of these things, and it's beautiful all at the same time. That's an efficient machine. Cars are incredibly efficient machines, and my thesis is that buildings are incredibly complicated machines with a single purpose. Today, this building's single purpose is for us to communicate, to share ideas, and to produce something great. That's a purpose, and this machine was put here to do that. It's here to keep our temperature right, our light levels right, the noise levels right, all of the things that drive productivity. And the problem is, I don't believe they're doing that well. And nobody can prove me wrong because we don't have the data to support it, okay? So buildings are machines. Buildings are not necessarily stupid machines, okay? They're incredibly data-rich machines. There is all kinds of data being thrown off of buildings. There is HVAC data, there's lighting data, there's occupancy data, there's security data, there's temperature data, there's all kinds of data. But it has no context, right? There's no information that comes out of buildings. Nobody can tell me whether this building, like Waze, should be rated yellow or red or green. We just don't know how to make an informed decision. And if I draw that analogy of buildings as machines towards vehicles, towards cars, there's a great example of an integrated machine. I have a car, and back in the day, a car had a temperature gauge, right? It told me what the coolant water was. And I forget what the number was. It might have been 220 degrees, 240 degrees, doesn't matter. It didn't have any context for me. It didn't tell me anything. But today, my coolant gauge tells me it's okay. The numbers are gone. And instead it gave me context. You're safe, Brandon. You're gonna make it down the road. And that's a mechanical system that's tied to an electrical system that's tied to a thermal system. I've got one integrated set of mechanical, combustion, and electrical signals all wrapped up into an integrated device. They call it dashboard, right? And that's what's so incredible and so powerful about the opportunity associated with buildings. I've got bicycle dashboards, I've got walking dashboards, fitness dashboards, but I don't have building dashboards. And again, this is 72% of the electricity in the nation. It's 50% of San Francisco, and it's 80% of New York City. So what we need is exactly what I just said before. We need integration. We need context. We need context. I've got data systems today that will tell me that this air conditioner is operating within its design specifications. But is it operating well? Is it meeting our needs, or are we a little bit warm because there's so many of us in here? Is it operating out of cycle because it really shouldn't be running at 7 p.m. on a Friday night, but instead there's 150 people in here? This is the context that I'm looking for. And I want to bring this together in a dashboard. And I'd like to see this integration come together in a crowd so that we can interact with it. And maybe we can judge these buildings and their effectiveness, or provide information to building designers, or building integrators, or to city governments. Okay? I think that's really, really important. Early on in the sustainability movement, one of the funny slides that was thrown up long ago was of the first generation Toyota Prius, and they said, what is the number one fuel-saving device on this car? And the next slide was, of course, the graph with your fuel efficiency, right? It's your interaction with that graph. Ooh, I want to make it higher. I want to make it just a little bit higher. And none of those things exist for buildings. We don't know whether we're operating well, green, yellow, or red in this building, and we don't know how to share that information with our peers. Right here we have a lot of creative and innovative people, and a lot of people that are looking to start a new space. Think about coming up with that great idea that San Francisco can use, and Chicago can certainly use, and most importantly, New York can use. That idea takes a company, and it takes a space where on very, very limited resources, you have some money, but more importantly, there's that human capital that you need to invest in this one space to make this idea fly. And you have no idea how to measure that building as to how productive it's going to be for you. Last figure, national averages for office spaces. Energy might cost about $1.50, $2 a square foot on average. That might be a little bit high. The rent might be 10x that on a yearly basis. And the people, the productivity and the cost of the people are going to be 100x that. So we need to get to the efficiency on the energy and the carbon footprint, and we also need to get to the efficiency of this machine for productivity and comfort for the workers within it. We need to do that from the inside, which we've got here, and then we need to bring that to the outside and get people to work on this with us. We can do that alone. We can do it as a facility manager or a potential renter or a building owner, or we can do that as a crowd, like Maze has done very well, like others have done, the Whig Party, and bring that in so that it's got an element of social responsibility that cities respond to, that they address, and that they can work off of. I don't even think they're afraid of it. They're bringing us in and asking us to draw off of it. Building technologists are asking for that, and the building owners are asking for that. So, last thought, the call to action is this. How would you interact with and view your efficiency and your productivity and your comfort? When are you happy in this building? When is it working for you? What are those parameters that drive it, and how would you represent that to somebody you cared about? All right? How would you screen all of these buildings, these billions of dollars of energy spend, and reduce them down to that crystalline good, better, best? And how, if you could, how would you beat your friends in this neighborhood competition of buildings, of information, of context of what's effective in a building? And I think we should do that. There's a couple ideas that came up. Years ago, I put up a challenge to call to action for readers, and that is, go around, look for any infrared scan of any building in the country and the world, and show me one where the windows aren't leaking energy, or where the infrared can give you ideas about what buildings are doing and consuming. And MIT's doing that right now, and they've got a citywide scan. Well, they'll take a Google-like truck, run infrared images, and get ideas about energy consumption. Getting a database of those images and tying that to comfort and productivity would be incredibly interesting. As from GigaOhm, talking about different renewable sources on maps, you cannot see that for buildings and their consumption, their productivity, their comfort, their efficiency, any of those. And then here's the last one. This is one of the applications that we have. And Sirius Energy has all kinds of roles. There's a public-facing role where you can compete with your friends, where you can see how the building that you occupy every day is doing. You can share that at a different role level to the facilities manager. He can see not only what the diagnostics of his machinery and equipment are, but how those are integrating with each other. And all of those then pull into one integrated whole. This is just an example image. What you've got here and what I'm looking for from this group is, in this case, we've got a graph that goes from midnight to 12 midnight, and you see that and each stripe is a day. This is building consumption data from the meter totaling 28,000 data points, and you're looking at it on a projector screen. And we all know intuitively that the green is good, and when I don't see red at 12 midnight, then I've got a building that's operating within spec. This time period is better than this time period. These are the visualization tools that capture months of data and put it on a dashboard that somebody can read instantly and realize, do a health check on their building or do a health check on their occupancy. So those are the types of visualization tools that we find very, very interesting. And I think the building industry would find very, very interesting. That's all I have for you. Thank you very much.